today. So brief introduction about Selenium. So before I start with the web elements, we should know what Selenium is all about. It's a small brief introduction I'm going to give. So what is Selenium? Selenium, as everyone knows, it is a web automation tool which is used to automate any kind of web applications which it supports. Like Selenium may not support all the kind of web applications, but it supports most of the web applications like normal servlet web applications or .NET web applications or GWT applications, Flex applications, etc. So Selenium was implemented or designed by or developed by a developer called Jason Huggins who works for ThoughtWorks team in the early 1990s, and it was not developed as a pure open source, but he developed this for one of his web application. The development team was working just to regress the application continuously without any issues. So during that time, the team of ThoughtWorks has thought, why not develop this particular script that was developed by Jason Huggins to an open source tool and make it a full-fledged open source web automation tool which can be used by all the automation engineers or whoever wants to automate their web applications. In such way, this particular tool, the Selenium, has become an open source tool which was supported by Google. So the different flavors of Selenium. So there are 4 different flavors of Selenium. One is Selenium Ide, one is Selenium RC, one is Selenium WebDriver, and the last but not the least, it is Selenium Grid. So what is this Selenium Ide? Selenium Ide is a Firefox add-on which is used for record and playback of the web application when we try to perform some actions on the Firefox browser. So it is a pure record and playback tool, and it supports only Firefox, and we don't have any add-on for any other browser. So whatever the script that gets generated, it gets generated in all the languages that Selenium RC supports. Okay. So the next thing is Selenium WebDriver. Selenium WebDriver is a separate API which was developed by Simon Stewart from Google, but it was integrated as part of Selenium RC so that it has overcome many of the flaws or the disadvantages that Selenium RC had. So the Selenium WebDriver is developed using Java API, but it supports all the languages, most famous languages like Java, .NET, PHP, Ruby, etc. So along with this, the advantage with Selenium WebDriver is it supports another feature called HTML unit driver, where HTML unit driver is a browserless execution where no browser will be invoked, either maybe Firefox or Internet Explorer or Chrome. It will not invoke any browser, but it runs internally and performs the actions. That is, it makes use of HTTP protocol to run the test cases. Then comes Selenium Grid. Selenium Grid is one of the wonderful API where it supports multi-threading concept. That is, we can invoke the test cases on multiple browsers of same flavor or multiple browsers of different flavors. For example, if I have 10 test cases and I want to run 10 test cases at a time on different browsers at a time, like Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, and Safari at a time, I can use of this Selenium Grid and run all the test cases, 10 test cases at a time on 4 different browsers. Or if I want to reduce the time of running the test cases, then I can use this particular tool and run 2 threads or 3 threads or 4 threads of same browser. Like Firefox, if I want to run 10 browsers, yeah, it will pick up all the 10 different test cases on each different browser and run the test cases. So if it takes 10 minutes of time to run on a single browser, it will take only 1 minute to complete all the 10 test cases on 10 different browsers. It makes use of the threading concept. So any doubts over here? Are you able to understand the brief introduction? If you have any doubts, you can ping me or you can talk over the audio. You can go ahead with your questions. WebDriver. The first topic that we are going to talk is identification of web elements. At any point of time, if you have any doubts, you can just ping me and I'll help you out with the doubts. Okay, so I'm starting with that. So how do I identify web elements? So to identify web elements, before I tell what is how to identify, we should talk what is this web element. So let me start talking about that. So first of all, let's start with Internet Explorer. So I'm taking Internet Explorer and trying to explain about how can we identify web elements or what are web elements. So what are web elements? Web elements are nothing but any element on a given web application which I want to automate or perform an action using Selenium WebDriver. We can treat them as web elements. So just I'm taking a sample example deal for loans. Here, if I want to perform an action on the full name text box, for example, I have a full name text box here and I am typing something called Pawan. So I want to type a name called Pawan in the full name text box. How would I identify this full name text box on this web application? I want to type my mobile number here called something like blah blah blah, like 43434343. So I want to identify this particular text box called mobile number text box. How would I identify? I have a city drop down over here. How do I select an element from this city drop down? I have a checkbox called I agree terms and conditions checkbox. That is, how do I select this checkbox or how do I unselect this text box? I have a button over here called get code. How do I perform the action of clicking on this particular button? So all these actions, any element on this particular web application can be treated as a web element. In Selenium terms, we call this as a web element. So to perform these actions on the web elements, Selenium comes up with different ways to identify these web elements. The first one is ID. So the first one is ID. The second one is name. Third one is class name. Fourth is XPath. So these are the four different ways we can identify a given web element on a given web application. So any element which can be automated only, which cannot be automated, cannot be treated as a web element. For example, if there is an image which cannot be identified on given web application, so we cannot treat that as a web element because we cannot perform any action using Selenium WebDriver. So now let's start. How do we identify an element using ID or name or class name first of all. So first of all, I am taking Internet Explorer. If in Internet Explorer, I will show you how to identify web elements. So for example, if you see, I have opened google.com. To identify element in Internet Explorer, first of all, we need an add-on called IE Developer Toolbar. So what is this IE Developer Toolbar? IE Developer Toolbar is an add-on for Internet Explorer. So while I'm telling you, if you people can download this IE Developer Toolbar in your computer, that would be good for you to understand how this works. So IE Developer Toolbar. Once you type in Google IE Developer Toolbar, so you'll get a list of options. And in the first option, Microsoft.com, where you can download this particular IE Developer Toolbar in your computer. It's just an add-on which will get integrated to your Internet Explorer browser. So Lakshmi, you don't require, see, at present I'm going to, first I have started with Internet Explorer, but I will show you on Explorer, Firefox, Chrome. How do we work on Internet Explorer? How do we work on Firefox? How do we work on Chrome? So the first browser I have chosen is Internet Explorer to identify the web elements. Okay. So you can speak out if you have any issues. Okay, if you can, or else you can just put your questions on the message. Anyone, if you have any questions, you can put on the message or you can speak out. So this is where you can download the IE Developer Toolbar. Once you click on download, it will install. Click on save, it will get installed onto your Internet Explorer browser. So now let me open one web application on Internet Explorer. I am trying to take a passport application, the passport application of India for NRIs. So this application, I will try to show you on Internet Explorer how to identify the particular elements on this particular web application. For example, in this web application, we have many text boxes, we have check boxes, buttons, drop downs, etc. So we'll try to identify each element using Internet Explorer. So once the add-on is installed, the IE Developer Tool bar is installed on this web application, we can see that particular add-on under view, under Explorer bar. Do remember that this comes under view, Explorer bar. Under Explorer bar, you will see IE Developer Toolbar. In IE Developer Toolbar, or else what you can do is you can click on F12. If you click on F12, this particular IE Developer Toolbar will come up. So on the bottom, on in the screen, now you are able to see a new screen called a pointer, a file, find, disable, view, outline, images, etc. This is what the IE Developer Toolbar. Using this toolbar, we will identify the web elements. So now let's take a text box. I want to identify this text box. So to identify this text box, first of all, I have to select this pointer. So select this pointer and place the cursor on the surname text box. So once this cursor is selected and placed on the surname text box, you can see a blue colored shaded region is visible on this particular text box. So that means this particular text box has been identified by the IE Developer Toolbar. Once this is selected, you can see a tag being identified on the particular IE Developer Toolbar. So once this is done, you can see in between here the different properties defined by the developer for this particular text box. So class, max length, name, on key, size, tab index. But to identify a given web element, we should have either ID or name or class name or XPath. XPath we are not going to discuss now. This is a separate topic. But to identify an element, first of all, a developer has to define an ID or name or class name in the given web application. If any of these three are not defined, then we go with XPath. So speaking about XPath will be in the later sessions. So first thing is ID or name or class name. So here a developer has defined a class, a max length, name, on key, size or tab index. In this class and name we can use. ID is not defined by the developer for this particular text box. So we can ignore ID because it hasn't been defined. The next thing is name. So always remember the priority in general people take is ID as the first priority, name as the second priority, class name as the third priority, because in general developers prefer to give IDs then names then class names. So that's the reason I am choosing ID as a first priority to identify a web element. But in this, for this particular web element surname text box, no ID is being defined by the developer. So I am going with the next option called name. So the name option is defined by the developer. So the developer has defined a value called surname for this particular name property. So I can use this value to identify this particular surname. So how do I say this particular value is unique or not? Remember, always remember, any element on the given web application should be uniquely identified. What does this unique mean? Unique means if you are using an ID or name or class name, that particular corresponding value defined by the developer should be unique. We'll see how we are deciding that that value is unique or not. So once the element is identified and its value is identified, like the surname we have identified, we need to copy that value and start searching for that value, surname value, within this total web application. We should start search for this particular value from the starting of the web page. That is, we are going to start searching from this online text to the end of the web application, that is save and print. How do we know that we are at the starting web page? In general, any HTML tag, any web application start with a HTML tag, then ends with the ending HTML tag. So when I am placing the cursor at the starting HTML tag, that means I am starting from the scratch, the starting of the web application. So I have placed the cursor in the IE Developer Toolbar at HTML tag, the starting HTML tag, and going to find option. Guys, if you are using IE 9, you will not find this find option. Rather than you will see on the right side in the IE developer toolbar, you will see a search box. Under search box, you need to place the value that you have captured for that surname text box. Okay, able to get me, or any doubts over here? If you have any doubts, you can speak out or you can message me on the chat window. So I have captured the value of name defined for the surname text box. Now I am going to find option. Under find option, I am placing the value that I have captured. And as we have taken the value of name, we don't have an ID defined for that particular element, and we did not take class. We have taken the name value. So I have placed the value surname, copied from the attribute section, and clicking on find. I have placed the cursor at the starting HTML tag and clicking on find. The reason is I want to check whether this surname value is defined anywhere else except for surname text box. So I'm clicking on find. Once I click on find, if you see on the screen, the surname text box was blinking with a blue color shaded region. That means if you see, the tag has come to the input tag. So from starting HTML tag, once the search has started, it has come to input tag. That means all these tags do not have any value called surname text box till this particular input tag, and this input tag is identifying this particular text box, the input, the surname text box. And we can see this value over here in the attribute section. This attribute section, you can see surname value defined for the name. But not only this surname text box is identified, but we have some more tags defined below. Maybe this surname value defined for the name attribute defined anywhere else. We need to cross verify that even, because this is not the last tag. If it was the last tag, we can say surname text box is uniquely identified with the surname value defined for name attribute, but we have some more tags. So now let's check again. Find next, or once again go to find element, and we'll see name attribute with surname value. I'm clicking on find, and you can see here reach the end of the document without finding an element with those properties. That means this value surname is not defined anywhere else within this given web application for except surname text box for the attribute name. Maybe in IE 9 you will not find this pop-up popping up, but once you click on search again in the search text box defined on the left side of this IE developer toolbar, it will go back to the top and come back to the surname text box itself. Okay, so now let me take another text box. Now let's take a checkbox. So if you see this text checkbox, this checkbox getting highlighted with blue color region, and a particular tag is getting identified in the IE developer toolbar, and some couple of attributes are defined by the developer. In this, we don't have an ID defined again. So we have a name defined. So name is defined with a value called ch name. So I'm taking the value ch name and placing the cursor again at the starting HTML tag. The reason is I want to check whether this value ch name is uniquely defined by the developer for the attribute called name throughout this web page. So now I've placed the cursor at the starting HTML tag and clicking on find element and placing the value ch name, and I'm selecting name attribute because the value is defined for the name attribute, and clicking on find. And if you see, the checkbox is getting blinked and a blue color shaded region is getting highlighted over there. So this means this particular text box get, and if you see in the IE developer toolbar, this particular tag, the tag of the checkbox is getting highlighted. So this name tag with ch name value has been is visible over here in the attribute section as well. But if you see, only couple of tags are completed in the IE developer. There are some more tags where we need to check whether this value ch name is available in the below tags also. So what I am doing is, once again I'm selecting find element and click on find next. So it says reach the end of the document. That means this particular value ch name is uniquely defined for the name attribute, and this ch name value can be used to identify this particular checkbox and perform the actions.